Hi there, my name's Annette with Sunbeam Fabric Art. Welcome to my channel. I'm sitting here in my living room because I am sitting beside my bin of scraps. I haven't made any scrap projects for a few months and the bin is getting full. I'm going to show it to you, but today I've got an idea in my head, and the first thing we've got to do is sort these scraps. So here is my bin. It doesn't look like a lot, but believe it or not, you can cram a lot of fabric into a small office trash can. My first step was just to start taking off at the top of this bin and sorting out by color. Right next to the trash can, you'll notice a large pile. That is cut-offs and cast-offs from previous scrap fabric projects. So I already have some scrap fabric assembled, but it's just little bits and pieces. Once I had that initial sort all done, I did use some Ziploc bags to group fabric colors into individual bags. And those cast-offs from previous scrap projects I put on the very top of that bin because I wanted to use those up first. Well, back upstairs in my little sewing space, it was time to get the iron out and press flat all these little pieces of previous scrap projects. I had leftovers from my scrap bolt of fabric that I made, and I've used that for several projects. I also have some leftovers from when I made my son a quilted jacket out of hourglass blocks. And I also used some of that hourglass fabric for a quilted vest for myself. So I had leftovers from several projects that were all scraps. But these scrap leftovers have been scrunched up in a bin for quite some time, so it's very important to me. Before I start working on something new, I need to get these pressed very, very flat. I don't like to put water in my iron, but I did grab my little spray bottle of water to help me get these scrap fabric remnants pressed nice and flat. As you can see here in real time, I did not rush this step. This is very important to me to make sure these are as flat as possible. For example, these hourglass blocks, they have 4 or 5, 6 seams all coming together in one place. Needs to be as flat as possible so I can work some magic in the future. With a large variety of scrap sizes, I kind of did a little measuring as I went along. For example, this strip, this is going to be perfect to cut into a 5-inch square. As we move farther into this project and going through the scraps that I have in my stash, just keep in mind that your stash is going to look like nobody else's, so you make the decision on what you want to do with your scraps. As I started pressing my scraps, I started sorting them. So I've got a pile that you can't see it, it's on top of my sewing machine to the right. That is bits and pieces that will make 8-inch blocks. The little pile in front that you see growing are pieces that will make 5-inch blocks, but they're not big enough for 8. In the back, we have on the left little pieces that will make a 3-inch square, and to the right of that, pieces that will make a 4-inch square. And then off camera, I've got a stack of anything that isn't big enough to make a 3-inch square. I'm using a little small ruler that's 2.5 inches by 8 inches off to the left there to check the sizes on some of these pieces. I did run across some blocks that I had already trimmed down to 3 and 4 and 5 inches, so that saved me a little time. With everything pressed and sorted out, I'm starting with my largest blocks first. And the reason I like to start with the large blocks first is because I might trim an 8-inch block. Maybe I'll have 7 inches left that I can add to my 5-inch block pile. You'll see as I cut these blocks, some of them are finished blocks. This one, for example, was bigger than 8 inches, but I just trimmed it off down to 8 inches. I wanted to use it in a different project now. I didn't want it to linger around in my stash, waiting for me to do something with. I'm going to get these blocks trimmed to 8 inches, 5 inches, 4 inches, and 3 inches, and I'm going to get some project made. Rather than have these stay in my stash forever and ever and ever and never do anything, I decided it's time to take action. And here is another large finished block. I'm trimming off 8 inches worth of this block, and then the leftovers can be added to these smaller piles of 3-inch blocks or 4-inch blocks. Here is the time-lapse look of me trimming all my blocks down. So we started with the 8-inch blocks, and any little bits that are either 5, 4, or 3 inches worth, I added those to the smaller piles. Next, I moved to the 5-inch block pile, then the 4-inch block pile, and last, I trimmed down the 3-inch block pile. You are certainly welcome to change the playback speed on this portion, slow it down if you want a close look at all my crazy scraps that I have. I think the little 3-inch blocks are going to be my absolute favorites. I did a video recently where I used mini charm packs to make a bunch of HSTs, over 600 of them. And even though that project was not easy, it turned out so beautiful. After finishing this process, here is what I have: 24 8-inch blocks, 101 5-inch blocks, 83 4-inch blocks, and 114 3-inch blocks. I hope that you will take the time to leave a comment on this video. What would you do with the 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch, or 8-inch blocks? And I also do have that little stack of scraps that are smaller than 3-inch squares, and I do plan to use those up as well. Let me know what you think. And if you enjoy my channel, feel free to subscribe and hit that bell icon to get notifications of new videos. And as always, I truly appreciate your support of my channel and joining me today, and I hope to see you back again real soon.